ललेन च दुष्पुरेणानलेन च आवृत्तेन ज्ञान एतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यसिद्धवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेणानलेन च आवृत्तं ज्ञानम् एतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पुरेण नालनेन च माता जी नित्यवैरिणा आवृत्तं covered, jnanam pure consciousness, etena by this, jnaninaha of the knower, nityavairina by the eternal enemy, kamarupena in the form of lust, kaunteya O son of Kunti, dushpurena never to be satisfied, analena cha by the fire. Translation purported by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srupati. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Purport. It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment, just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus the material world is called Maithuna Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. Homagyanatmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. So basically here if we see, it begins with Arjuna's question. So if you go to verse 36, you can see, we'll just refresh ourselves. So in verse 36, Arjuna, he inquired from Krishna, what is one impelled to sinful activities, by which one is impelled even unwillingly, as if engaged by force. This was Arjuna's question. So now Krishna is giving the answer. So in these three verses what we see, then Krishna answers that it is born with the material modes of passion and later on transformed into wrath, and which is all devouring sinful enemy of this world, not a single self of the world. Then how it is covered, Krishna gives three analogies further in 38. As fire is covered by smoke, as mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by womb, the living entities similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So this was mentioned in 38. So now Krishna explains in this verse. So here Krishna explains, thus the wise living entities pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So Krishna here gives the analogy of fire. So in Mahabharata there is one story. So there was one king and he did yajna for 12 years unending, and he for 12 years that yajna didn't end for 12 years, and he was constantly pouring ghee. So there is mentioned for 12 years. So just one example, so we can understand. Also from the in Bhagavatam there is a story of Yayati and Devyani. So anyone knows for how long they enjoyed family life? 1000 years. 1000 years in the Bhagavatam. Yeah, Bhagavatam it is mentioned. 1000 years, still they were not satisfied. So now here Krishna he explains how this covers our intelligence. So here Krishna explains that how our first Krishna explains Avrutam Jnanam Etena. The first line. So basically in material world what we see, in material world, like when two countries are fighting, so what the countries they do, first they switch off the lights so the enemy will not come to know where to put the bombs. In the olden time, nowadays the technology has changed, but first you make everything to darkness so the enemy will not come to know. So here what we see, the lust covers our intelligence. So here what we see, the living entity's pure consciousness is covered by lust. So here what we see, that Krishna explains how our consciousness is covered. But also in the 4th chapter, in further Krishna will explain 4.19. Krishna will explain that one is understood to be in full knowledge whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said to be a sage, to be a worker into whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So if you go to 4.19, Krishna explains one who has perfect knowledge by the fire of knowledge. And if you see, there are different kinds of fire. So the devotees, they have the one fire, that is the fire of separation, especially the followers of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Jagannath. That is called, what Agni it is called? Viraha Agni. What Agni? Viraha Agni. That is a fire of separation. Also there is one Jatra Agni. When you feel hungry, there is a fire in the belly, not real fire, that is a different fire. So this way there are different kinds of fire. So also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains Gyan Agni. So in 4.37, you can see what exactly Krishna explains, how this fire of knowledge, as a blazing fire turns fire to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all reactions to material activities. So now whatever activities we do in material world, unless we have real fire of knowledge, that's why we see in the olden time, in every house there is to be a constant fire in the kitchen, not on the house. I know when I used to visit my grandmother, there is to be constant fire in their chula, in their kitchen. Next day they will put something, again that fire will lit up. Also if you go to old temples, there is called Akhand Jyoti. Anyone knows Akhand Jyoti? Also in Govardhan there is one temple, Uddhav Kund. There is one Babaji, Giriraj Baba. So he has last many years, the fire is burning. And if you go to Jagannath Puri also, at Lord Chaitanya's place, Gambhira, there is a fire. What they say, it is burning from Lord Chaitanya's time. So now our acharyas, they explain that our fire of knowledge should be always burning. So if that fire is gone, then we'll get covered. So we should always remember that our knowledge of fire, it should be always burning. Like if you go out of house in villages, you are always carrying a torch. So similarly, when we come to devotional service, that our fire of knowledge, the torch of our knowledge, it should be always burning. So that should be the understanding from the first part. We should know that in practical application, what we should know. Yes, in material world, what we see today in big cities, so what they keep, basically big buildings, they keep sand buckets, fire extinguishers. For what? Just to burn the fire. They have the material ready. Also in medical science, what they explain, if someone is on fire, you cover him with blanket. You cover that person with blanket, so the fire will go off. So similarly, because this ignorance, the lust, it is covering our intelligence. So we should know that our fire, we should be always in touch with the scriptures, and also we hear so many stories in Bhagavatam, many other places. So we should always have the fire in our mind, fire of knowledge, it should be always burning. So we should know, yes, what is what. And what we see now today, Krishna here is explaining how this lust, it is compared to fire. And what we see, Ravana is a personification of lust. Ravana, if you see the complete history of Ravana, how Ravana died, because of he went behind Sita. Actually Ravana had wives from 14 worlds, so he had no dearth of anything. He had everything, but he was not satisfied despite having so many wives, and he was misguided by his sister Surpanaka, and that was the cause of Ravana's death. So material world, what we see, we have so many living examples. So we should always know that in material world, as long as, because this is always, the lust is always covering our intelligence. So Prabhupada explains the best way to stop lust is to stop feeding it, let it die. So Prabhupada writes, the best way to stop lust is to stop feeding it and let it die. So today we have gas chula. In the olden time, the fire used to die off gradually. In Vedic cooking, you don't put the wood, the fire will go off. But nowadays, if you keep on the gas, it will be burning, your food will be burned. But here, what Prabhupada explains, that stop feeding and let the fire die. So also, what is the gross example in material world? So elephant is considered to be the most lusty animal. Elephants, especially male elephants. So how the male elephant is caught? They send a female elephant just to attract the male elephant, and they make a big pit and they cover it with a green grass, and the female elephant, it bypasses that, she knows there is a pit, and just to catch with that female elephant, this male elephant runs behind her and he falls in that pit, and this elephant, he is not fed for maybe 1 week, 2 weeks. So by that time his all energy is gone, his power completely, he is powerless in one sense. So he is pulled out from the pit and he is tied to a tree with an iron chain, and the thinking, feeling, willing of that elephant completely changes, and what he thinks, now I am bound for life, and he becomes the slave for lifelong. That is what can be done with the elephant. So same thing can happen to a man also, one who is in knowledge. So we should know Now here Prabhupada concludes very nicely that if you read the purport in the end, so Prabhupada writes, while one enjoys sense gratification, there may be some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So can anyone tell? This is one verse is quoted in Bhagavad Gita. I can give a clue. Okay, Bhagavad Gita 18 chapter. Anyone knows what is the verse? So Krishna explains that happiness which is derived from contact of senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at the first but poison at the end is said to be in the mode of passion. That is what Prabhupada concludes here in the purport. So what we see material world, whatever we try in the beginning, let it be a smoking or drinking or any kind of activity. So habit in the material world, what we say, how the habits are formed. So what they say, you take out H, A bit, take out A, then bit, take out B, it. So something stays in the habit. So these habits, they are gradually formed. So we should know, especially when it comes to this lust. So the lust is transformed into anger, greed, then illusion, pride and envy. These are the further extensions of lust. So basically the lust is, it is categorized into two things. One is gross lust and one is subtle lust. So what is subtle lust is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains, Puja Labh Pratishta. Puja Labh Pratishta means in material world, everyone is seeking for profit, adoration and distinction. Prabhupada explains profit, adoration and distinction. So what is the gross lust? Gross lust means like looking after our body, satisfying all our carnal desires. That is called gross lusty desires. So there are many prayers in the Bhagavatam by our acharyas, and we can learn through our acharyas how they take the position of a conditioned soul and how they pray to the Lord. And it is said that when we pray to the Lord will surely answer our prayers. So one time Prabhupada, he was also telling the Western devotees, you people, you don't fear Maya, that's why you fall down in Maya. He was telling the devotees. So one should be always fearful of Maya. It is not that, yes, now I am a devotee of Krishna, Maya will not do anything for me. It is not like that. So as long as we are in material world, Prabhupada explains, even if one is a Paramhamsa, Paramhamsa is the final stage among the sannyasis, fourth stage, still that person may be attracted for material desires, gross desires. So we should know that when we repeat the prayers of our acharyas, or when the time comes, these prayers, if they come to our heart, some change can take place, we may get saved. So Bilma Mangal Thakur is very senior most in our sampradaya compared to all our acharyas. Bilmangal is he was living very long back. So Bilmangal, he has written a poem, very nice poem. He explains, Sansara Kube Patita Tyagre Moha Anda Purna Visha Bhi Tapte Karavalamma Mahadehi Vishnu Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. So what he explains, oh Govinda, I am fallen in the dark well of samsara. Samsara means repeated birth and death, which is full of illusion and burning with the fire of lust. Hey Damodar, hey Madhav, take me out of this dark well by giving shelter of your hand. So this is how Bilmangal Thakur, he prays. So also there is one nice prayer that in material world what we see, although we are serving our senses since time immemorial in different species of life, so here it is explained eternal enemy. Can anyone tell what exactly means eternal enemy? So the soul is eternal and we are taking different bodies. The lust is there in all species of life, from Indra to Gopindra. Anyone knows what is Gopindra? Gopindra. A small ant is called Gopa. From Indra to an ant. They're always carried out by these lusty desires. So eternal enemy means in all species of life we are being impelled by these lusty desires. And we see the Lord has made and this perfect match in all species of life. So every species they have partners, either it is birds, any species of life. So there's one nice this thing verse. Sometimes we should remember these verses. So some solace will be there. So it is mentioned, Kamadinam katida palita durmedeshat tesham jata maina karuna na tripta no pashanti. So one of our acharyas they explain, oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of my lusty desires. Although I have rendered them so much service, they have never shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I ever desired to give them up. O my Lord, O head of Edu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened, and now I am giving up them due to transcendental intelligence. I now refuse to obey the unwanted order of these desires, and now I come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service. So this is what is explained by one of our acharyas. Also in the Bhagavatam there is a nice self-realization of Pingala. There is a 11th canto, Krishna explains to Uddhava in Uddhav Gita. So we are reading Bhagavad Gita. Also there is a Uddhav Gita, 11th canto. So 8th chapter, Krishna explains to Uddhava. So there was one Avdhuta. So actually spiritual life, our ears are our eyes, that we should know. So this Avdhuta used to go to different places and he used to observe. And this way he had 24 gurus. And one of his guru was one prostitute, her name was Pingala, in one country called Videha. So there is no mention how he observed her. But Pingala's complete story, there is one chapter dedicated to Pingala, complete her lifestyle. So Pingala also curses herself that how she lived in material world, and even she tried to give enjoyment to the materialistic people, but what she got in return, she explains, Santam Samipe Ramanam Rami Pratipe Vitta Pradam Nityam Ima Vihaya Akamam Dam Dukkham Bhayadi Shoka Moha Pradam Tucham Aham Bhaje Gnya. So what she explains, I am such a fool that I have given up the service of that person who is being eternally situated within my heart. He is actually most dear to me. That most dear one is the Lord of the universe, who is the bestower of real love and happiness and the source of all prosperity. Although he is in my heart, I completely neglected him. Instead, I have ignorantly served insignificant man who can never satisfy my real desires and who have simply brought me unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation and illusion. So now we should understand from Pingala, this is what we are going to get in the society, whomever we serve. And Prabhupada in one purport he explains that Mahatma Gandhi, he served the nation. He freed India from the Britishers. But what happened? Our own people, they killed him. Then he explains about Napoleon, about Hitler. They did so much, but they had to die a very terrible, horrible death. So they were never content. So one should understand, as long as we are in material world, so whatever we desire, those desires, they will not be satisfied. Because on a mundane sense, Krishna also in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, the demigods explain that a materialist person, he is hovering on the mental plane. He is hovering on the mental plane. Haro abhaktasya puto mahadguna manorathenani dhavato bhai. In a material world, one who is a non-devotee, so he is just roaming on a mental plane. So further Pingala explains that Asha hi paramam dukkham. She explains, Nairasham paramam dukkham. What she explains, that in this material world, material desires are undoubtedly the cause of greatest unhappiness. And freedom from such desire is the cause of greatest happiness. This was her ultimate understanding. So we should know material world that any amount of things we try to do, enjoy, will never be satisfied. Like we often quote the story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, he wanted to conquer over the complete world. But you know, in India, there are many things they can subdue you. You can learn many lessons in India in all fields of life, all walks of life. So when Alexander came to India, so half of his army was subdued by the mosquitoes in India. And somebody told, you can have self-realization in India. There are a lot many sadhus in India. So they can give you some words of wisdom. So he told one of his men, go and get one sadhu. So his soldier, he went and he was looking for a sadhu. He came across a hut and he found one sadhu meditating, and he told, Alexander the Great is calling you. The sadhu said, whose need is there? He said that king's, then he should come here. So this fellow went and he told Alexander that he wants you to come there. So Alexander, he was taken away by his krodha, no? He was totally angry. So he came on his horse and he stood outside the hut and he told the soldier, now go and call that fellow outside. So the soldier, he went. Now he told, the king is almost, he is here. Now why don't you come out? So the sage, he told very calmly, just send him inside. So when the soldier, he told Alexander, no, he wants you to come inside. So he became very angry and he took out his sword and he shouted, and he just jammed in his hut inside, and he shouted, you dare, and he was about to behead that sadhu. But at that time the sadhu, in a calm voice, he said, come, O my any servant of servant. Come, O my servant of servant. So Alexander was taken back. So he wanted to know exactly. Come, O servant of my servants. So Alexander was taken back. He wanted to know exactly what he is telling. So then the sadhu, he said, I have made all this lust, anger, greed, I have made them my servants. They are my feet, at my feet. And you are their servant. You are acting under their direction. So now you are impelled by krodha. Now that's why you are here shouting. So Alexander, he got solace. Yes, what this fellow is telling true. So material world, what we see, that no matter any amount of thing, so as long as one is under this influence of mode of passion, what Prabhupada explains in the purport, this material world, as long as we are in this material world trying to enjoy sense gratification, so we are increasing the duration of our life. We are increasing. Also Shankaracharya explains that one nice verse he explains, even if one grows old, the body is falling apart. There is one nice verse, Angam galitam palitam mundam dashana heenam jatam tundam vruddhoyapi gritva dandam tadapi munchati ashana pindam. So what he explains, galitam means ripened. So he explains the body is ripened. Ripened means old age completely. Angam galitam palitam. Then his jaws, they are fallen apart and his hairs have already become white. Hardly he can see, and he is walking with a stick. But still he has not lost the desire for sense gratification. So this is what we see in material world. When Prabhupada was in Paris, he was staying in a hotel and he saw some people are going to the club, old people, old men, and he asked one devotee, what is happening? So they told, there's a club, night club. So Prabhupada was telling, yes, this is what happens in the material world. When people are not God conscious, this is what happens. So also Shankaracharya explains that kama, krodha, lobha, moha, tektva, he explains you should discard them because they are the killer of the soul. Also in Bhagavad 16:23, Krishna explains, Trividasya narkasyadam, dwaram atmanam nashanam. These three things lust, anger, greed, they kill the soul in one sense. They are the killer of the soul. So one should leave them. Also Shankaracharya explains that this material body, which is composed of different elements, we know what are the elements in the body. So he explains, before trying to enjoy this body, he explains baram baram vicharayet. Like when you eat some stale food, you think of, oh, if I eat this food, what will I have? I'll have indigestion, food poison. When you are sometimes stale food is there, sometimes you feel, oh, so costly food, how can I throw? But you know what will be the consequence. So similarly Shankaracharya explains, so when you are trying to enjoy this material body, which is made of disgusting elements, but you think of it again and again, so at least you will have some higher understanding. So also Rupa Goswami explains, what is this? These are like wave. Now fan is moving at some speed, so there is some sound coming. When you run the cooler also there is some sound coming because of that speed. And now in summer there is so many dust storms are coming to Vrindavan. Also when Trinavat came, there was a big wind. So Rupa Goswami explains, Vacho Vegam, Mana Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropastha Vegam. So there are as many as 12 Vegas. Recently I was reading another book. So where I found there are more than 12 Vegas. So Rupa Goswami explains that a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demand, the actions of anger, the urges of tongue, belly and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So material world we see in one sense there are so many urges are there. So similarly here what we see, Prabhupada explains, this like material world is like a shackle of sex life, and he quotes from Manu Samhita. Maithun Agar means where everyone is impelled by this lusty desires. Also in the 4th canto, Dehavati explains to Kapil Dev that a woman is cause of bondage for man and man is cause of bondage for a woman in the material world, in a gross sense. So this is what happens, and what Prabhupada explains, this modern civilization, they are taking everyone to hell because of this materialistic advancement. They want everyone to enjoy how they enjoy. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he gives one nice story. He gives the title Lively Hell. So he explains one nice story. There is a Updesh Upakyam. So in that he explains that one time a pious Brahmana, he advised a drunkard. So he told, see, you give up this wine. The scriptures they explain that one who takes wine, he will go to hell. So that the person who was drunkard, he asked, see that Barun Babu, he drinks, what about him? He said he will go to hell. Then he said there is a Arun Babu, he said he will also go to hell. Then he told Suren Babu, all these Bengali names. Then he was telling all they will go to hell. Then the Brahmana he told that those who tell lie, those who cheat others, those who practice illicit sex, all they will go to hell. So then this drunkard, he asked, there is one woman prostitute, Bhamini, what about her? He said she will also will go to hell. So this way when he heard that almost everyone is going to hell, so what was his realization? The drunkard, what he exclaimed, oh, then there must be a hellish pandemonium in hell. If some men flock to hell, then there must be great fun. blind leading the blind. So today's world, what we see, the government wants everyone should have a tab, one mobile. They want everyone should have an apartment. So one time one Brajavasi, he told me, this is a doggish mentality. This is a doggish mentality. What happened one time, a young dog, very dynamic, robust dog, he was running behind a big truck, and the truck was carrying big load of bamboos, bamboos, long bamboos. And what is the psychology of dog? If one dog is barking, the others will bark, and if one is running, the others will run. They will never think of what is happening. So what happened, this young dog, he was running behind the truck, and the truck was going at a normal speed, and many young dogs, they were chasing, and this way about 20-30 dogs, they were chasing a truck, but there was a old wise dog. So somehow he got a realization, and he thought, why these young dogs, they are running. So that is the fate of today's world. So he also started chasing them, and one who was in the last, the young dog, he asked, hey you guys, why you are running behind this truck? What is the problem? So he said, I don't know, I saw them running, I thought let me also run. So he said, come on, inquire from the ahead one. So this way there was a relay of message, and the message came to the first person who was in the first, who was first from the beginning itself. So he was asked, hey, why we are running behind this truck? So that guy, he told, see, this truck will go somewhere, they will unload these bamboos, and they will put that bamboos in the earth, and there we can mark our signature there, whatever, what dogs they do. So material world, we are running behind this technology. Every day we are opening the newspaper. Yes, what is new now, which is new model in mobile or iPad or car, anything. So this is our modern trend, and we have so many applications, WhatsApp, Facebook, so many things. In now the recent survey is that in city, a person on an average every 5 minutes he is looking at his mobile. Every 5 minutes a person is looking at his mobile. That much we are into this one. So we should know, like in the Bhagavad Gita, so all you can go to 16th chapter. So Lord Krishna explains the fate of a person when he gets carried away by these lusty desires. From 6.10 Krishna explains very nicely. So page 668. 16.10. So Krishna explains, taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac thus illusioned always are sown to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Further Krishna explains, they believe to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network. Today we have network, not many networks, of hundreds of thousands of desires, and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. The demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future, stock market, more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him. Then my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am the perfect, powerful and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by, again, a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. So this is what we see, how we are, these things they take us to hell. So there is no end of went to this, and we have some time. So we'll go through the commentary of our acharyas. So first we'll go through the commentary of also one analogy is given by our Prabhupada is that a silkworm. All of you know the silkworm. It makes a very nice silk room, but it gets bound in that, and it is put in the hot water. That is its death. And also another example Prabhupada gives that of a camel. So the camel, it likes eating thorns. A materialistic person who is enjoying sense gratification, he is losing his vital energy. and this way he dies. So here Prabhupada explains that in material world there is because of our sense gratification our entangled becomes more and more and increased. So Sridhar Swami he explains that now the inimical nature of karma or lust is being made even more explicit by Krishna. It is discriminative faculty of knowledge that is covered by karma. To the ignorant, while enjoying sense objects, karma itself is the cause of pleasure, but the subsequent reaction will be inimical. To the person situated in Vedic wisdom, that understanding will receive a subsequent reaction. Then the karma is the cause of pain even while trying to enjoy for a materialist person. Therefore, karma is understood to be an eternal enemy. Moreover, even if supplied with delightful sense objects of sense enjoyment, it is never enough because karma is insatiable, and when it is not satisfied, karma turns into krodha, anger, and that leads to grief, affliction, just like a forest fire burning everything in its path. So from these statements, it is eternal nature towards all being has been declared. So then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that lust indeed is ignorance of the jiva, for it covers the knowledge of jiva. The phrase eternal enemy indicates that the lust must by all means be killed. He explains it should be killed, lust must be killed. By this ignorance in the form of lust compared to an unsatisfied fire, knowledge is covered. This Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur he quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 9:19-14, as supplying butter to fire does not diminish the fire, but instead increases it more and more. The endeavor to stop lusty desires by continuous enjoyment can never be successful. So Baldev Vidyabhushan he gives a very nice understanding. So he explains this verse clarifies the meaning. The knowledge of the living, knowing entities, the jivas, Jnanina, is covered by its eternal enemy, Nitya Vairina. So here also the second stanza explains Jnaninam Nitya Vairina. That means the lust is the enemy of the Jnani, because if the Jnani, if he is not using the lust in the service of the Lord, then that same lust will be his enemy, it will kill him. So now in Bhagavatam we are reading about Rishabdev. So now the 6th chapter we are going through. In that also Rishabdev explains the 6 anarthas. So he explains also these are the enemy of a devotee or a Jnani. Here Krishna explains that they are the enemy of a Jnani. So here Baldev Vidyabhushan explains that Jnanina is covered by his eternal enemy Nitya Vairina in the form of lust, Kama Rupena. For the ignorant person, Kama is friend because it gives happiness at the time of enjoying sense objects, though it is actually the enemy, since its the ultimate effect is suffering. The person in knowledge, however, knows that even at the time of enjoyment, it will become a cause of suffering. Thus, it is called the constant enemy, Nitya Vairina. Therefore, this means that by all means it should be destroyed. By all means. Like now, today's world, so there are many countries, they want to destroy the lethal weapons. Lethal weapons, they have many different kinds of weapons. So they are making different treaties. They say, destroy this weapon, because this weapon can cause mass destruction of mankind. So this way, here what they explain, that we have to completely kill it. Therefore, this means that by all means it should be destroyed. Moreover, it is unsatisfied fire, just as it is impossible to put off the fire. Kama cannot be satisfied by enjoyment. Thus the Smriti, again he also, Baldev Vidyabhushan also quotes similar to Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's. Then Madhvacharya also gives a very nice commentary. He explains, one on the path of Jnana Yoga knows from the Vedic scripture that moksha or liberation from cycle of birth and death can never be manifest itself until first attaining Atma Tattva or soul realization. When such is the cause of a person of wisdom, what can be said of persons of meager intelligence? So the word kama rupena means in the form of lust. This indicates that only the great pain and difficulty is lust ever fulfilled. The word dushpurena means never satisfied. This indicates that kama or lust is an eternal adversary. Even the position of Indra in the heaven realms is born of this kama. That is to be that is to be the king of all celestials. Yet even while trying to achieve that position of Indra, the position of Brahma is sought because kama is never satisfied, and it is more exalted to be ruler of the material world than the king of the celestial, and so forth and so on. The word analena means like a fire, which denotes the burning of fire of kama, which is never satisfied and insatiable. It is said that kama covers the atma as smoke covers fire, as this prevents one from seeing a reflection in the mirror. Then that was Madhvacharya. Then we will conclude with Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya explains the intellect of one who even has understanding of Atma Tattva or soul realization becomes clouded by eternal enemy known as kama or lust, and which generates fascination and excitement for enjoying the objects of the senses. The word dushpurena means insatiable. It can never be satisfied. It constantly hungers for sense gratification. Even if it is accessible to get and impossible to have, still kama yearns for it. It is analena or inextinguishable, as nothing ever completely satisfies kama permanently. When the object of its desire has been acquired, the senses fully gratified, then at once kama wants more and looks for something new. It is never satisfied. In what way kama utilizes itself to envelop the atma or the soul, Lord Krishna reveals next. So this way, what we see, we should understand from our acharyas that this is to be completely destroyed. Hare Krishna. So anyone has any quote,